to learn more about the resources and helplines available, listen to the end of the episode. For additional details, you must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So visit rg-help.com. This episode of Both Simmons Podcast is brought to you by Hills Pet Nutrition. Hills Food Shelter Love Program provides science-led nutrition for cats and dogs in shelters across North America. They've helped more than 14 million pets find new homes. Every time you feed your pet Hills, you help feed a shelter pet, which helps make them healthy, happy, and more adaptable. Everybody wins, especially pets that find a forever home. Buy the bag that gives back. Visit hillspet.com/podcast to learn more. We're also brought to you by the Ringer Podcast Network. After you watch what's coming for you on Monday, we have Fairway Rolling, our golf podcast covering all of the Masters games. Scotty Scheffler wins it. Congrats to him. We talked a bunch about it on Tuesday and Thursday in this podcast. I watched all weekend with House and Nathan, and they're going to hit everything we would have talked about on this podcast. We're talking basketball pretty much all the way through, at least in part one, because Game 81, Game 82. It feels like the NBA finally figured out what to do with this final weekend. I'll explain why when we talk to Russillo. But we're going to do a two-part podcast right here. Part one is going to be all the stuff we saw this weekend and all the playoff stuff that's coming, all the matchups, everything we think. And then we're going to put that up as fast as we possibly can and then take part two as part one's going up. Part two is going to be all the award stuff. I'm going to save some UFC and Masters stuff for the end. A two-part staggered BS podcast with Brian Russillo next. First, our friends from Roger. All right, we're taping this. It is 3:45 Sunday. The Masters is still going up at Scotty Scheffler. Some things changed, some things shifted. I want to talk about the weekend first, and then we can go into all the playoff matchups. But what was the number one thing that jumped out to you this weekend?
It's Phoenix closing with this brutal tough schedule over the last 10, going 7-3. It was off the charts, harder than any other remaining schedule. When you started looking at the strength of schedule, they were like 27% of like 650 or 660 at one point. That's tough schedule spot. They shooting like after that San Antonio game. Who are these 7 and they just beat Minnesota. They still Minnesota would have been 3 seed. And now they're facing Cincinnati with a beat. So that I thought was the biggest thing.
They didn't just beat Minnesota. They took a stick out and like smacked them around for 2+ hours. They talked shit. There was this moment when they're up like 18 and Beal talked shit to Ant. And there's like a little bit of a shoving match and a separation. I'm like, oh man, Ant's playing terrible. This is the worst thing you could have done. Didn't matter. Things were great. I agree with you, but didn't that change for me with that? Because, and we talked, what was it, last week we did this segment about trick or treat. Don't allow yourself to get tricked by a thief. And I wasn't going to allow myself to get tricked by a thief. Because I just didn't believe in that. I didn't think the 2 guys that didn't get it. But Beal over the last 5 games, it really jumped out in the Sacramento game, which I thought was a very victim of. And then this game, too, Beal was just awesome. Like, he looked like, I don't know, the cross between the 2017 playoffs, Bradley Beal, and then kind of near the end of the Wizards before it went sideways Beal. But we haven't seen that version of him at all. The game today was the first time I felt like it was the 3 of them, not just AD and Booker kind of with Beal, and I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know if he had this in. Were you expecting that?
I think we all know how cards frustrating part of this. Sending Peter Booker and giving him a stack. As great as he is, wait on the other side.
In the way.
Should be able to attack something that's far easier than what these guys have to attack. And even though you know he's always going to put big numbers, he is just for so many parts of the season. Granted, it took so long for going on this game. So recently, what they won is time. But by the way, that thing, there was video. I'm glad I saw this. could switch it around, but at the start of the second half, Anthony really covered the screen.
Yeah. They were
Did you see that?
I saw.
So I just was thinking about, okay, if they basically he has just bad at this. Yeah, he was 3 of 7 today. They load up on him defensively. His shooting numbers are sub 30%. He was 2, so it actually went up from 3 7 today. So he is not good against Minnesota.
And you left out his 5 turnovers in the second.
I mean, they had 24. They had 20. Like the story was that it was the turnovers and bad work. I think they had 9 turnovers in the defense game. But then integrating Cat back into it this late, I think it also is a factor of Pelicans getting smoked by the Lakers today. Yeah, where you go, it's great you have it, but I think they were slow offensively, shady stuff. It was easy to load up on hand. Cat's trying to find himself. I actually physically Cat was really good at his passes. He gets his feet back. But yeah, I think to your original question, like, are you ready to buy back in? Phoenix against Minnesota. That's really good to know.
It was so funny to watch the Lakers last week in person play the Timberwolves without Towns. And I was like, man, this team looks locked in. They know who they are. And Ant's really growing as a playmaker. He was a bottom. That was the worst game I've seen play all season. And Towns, I texted you at one point. I was like, where's this ranking the unlikable Towns game performances? It was the perfect storm. It was the launching offensive, like, wide charger block, just putting the reps in that over and over again. It was just doing dumb, stupid shit on defense. Like him calling for the reviews on plays that weren't ever going to be reviewed in a million years. He was playing on the hits. It was like the greatest hits Towns concert. And I'm like, why did I believe in this team to make the finals? What am I doing with myself?
I still think, I don't know if you agree or disagree, I think physically he looks pretty good. He had a show where they dealt with Booker, and he had to retreat and hit the cover of ball, and I thought he may have blown out Booker's yells and had back in position because the ring, he was so awkward. But I mean, it's the first thing I looked at. Again, Bede, I thought was terrible. He still scores 30, okay? But he looks better now.
Did you see Friday night?
Well, that's entirely yeah, they were like at the same night. That's a little bit of a net story. It's going to be time. But I don't know what to do with Phoenix right now. It looks like based on everything we've seen, and it's not like some of these season series that you look at, you go, oh wow, this team won 3 out of 4. That's the last time we played like January 3rd. Like a lot of the Dallas stuff that you were looking at, although the projections were really the first one, the way the seeding was working, there's just some of the season series stuff. Look at the record, and you got to dig a little bit deeper to see who played, who didn't play, and things like that. It took 3 months, but this is 2 games in 9 days. It's scary if Minnesota.
Yeah, they were guarding Towns with some of their guards the other day. They're like, hey man, you should try this. Gobert had a good game, but it seemed like the Suns were playing with it. Beal's last 2 games, he was 19 a game, 6 assists, shooting 54%. He's over 50% on threes, 89% free throws. Like, this has been, you're making that trade, you're basically giving up nothing for him, right? You make so much money, nobody else in the league wants it. Miami might have wanted him if they didn't get Dame, they'll never know the case of that, but
he also had the no trade.
He needed the no trade. It was so pricey, there was not a lot of market to deal with, but the guy that we watched the last 5 games, I was really, the Sacramento game I thought was just as impressive as this game, because near the end when they needed baskets, it was shocking. They were running stuff through Beal and Durant, not Booker. You notice that? Last play of the game, when Nurkic ended up getting the free throws and he made 1 or 2, like that, it was like Beal's game to win or lose with the ball, 107-107. They're trying to get out of the play. And I was like, man, that's not nothing. Like these guys gain trust. I also think he's played really hard, right? Like I've kind of vacillated back and forth on whether I was a fan of his game, but the Beal that we've been watching the Suns lately, I think has played really hard both ways. Like I was watching with House today, because House is here, and House of course has had the full experience with the Wizards, and he was just like, this is why the guy's so frustrated, because we knew this was in here, you know, and it's like, all right, now we're seeing it, so I don't know what it means for the playoffs, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, he set a great tone to start the game today, and this is ideally what we're doing to put this team together. Bob Myers was at the Denver game the other night, and they were just talking about, somehow they got on the top of it was good though, they were talking about what they thought the West would look like, because this feels like a free-for-all. which is really nice. But because when I look at Phoenix, they put everything together to start playing depth. These guys, because I would have thought they'd be a 2 or 3 spot. So when you look at the point differential for those 5 guys, one of the better ones in the league, that's been for a while. I don't really care about the overall stats, which is a large chunk, but it's just funny that there are these moments in the season holding on hope, back-to-back against San Antonio, lost by 2 points, and Yama didn't even play. There's so many bad habits in that game. Yeah, come back and they beat Denver, but that was without Murray. And it was OKC by 25. They beat New Orleans. Cleveland's a mess. They beat Minnesota in the 5th. And they lost that New Orleans game. I was great about New Orleans. So this is just, it's been, we know there's the peaks and valleys of every season. This has been just,
this is every week.
Right.
We've had, it's a little like when following football is like during the regular season when it's like, all right, week 4, I'm doing my Sunday night podcast, you're doing Monday, and it's like, Miami, are they for real? And then the next week it's like, Miami, they're not for real. And you kind of bounce around. So I asked you what jumped out to you the most. I'm going backwards to Friday night with the Denver-San Antonio game, which became something of a black swan event for the season. And it's one of those where if you just saw the box score and you're like, oh my God, Denver, how did they lose that Spurs game? What the hell are they doing? But we went back, House and I, we came home that night and we watched the second half on League Pass, just the replay. They're up 20 halfway through the third quarter, the Nuggets. Like, they're putting this away. They're getting the 1 seed. They're playing the Spurs on Friday. They're playing Memphis on Sunday. This is a wrap. They look great. And then Wemby does the thing where it's like when we talk about All-NBA in part 2, I feel like we're at least going to have to talk about Wemby for 3 minutes. Because Wemby just takes over the game and goes nuts and culminates with like a 30-footer from the arc. Even then, the Nuggets are still up there 10, fourth quarter, they're up 6. They're in control. And then the last 3 minutes, it's Devontae Graham, who I didn't even know was playing anymore. I knew he was a contract. Some guy named Mamu, who's only been playing recently on the Spurs, he has like a 15-letter name. The announcers were just calling him Mamu. Kind of like this game, by the way. And Wemby. And it's the 3 of them going against the Nuggets, and it's not like the Nuggets didn't care. The Nuggets were fucking trying. And they end up losing on this crazy Devontae Graham shot. They still have a second left. They can't inbound the ball, and they lost. And you could see Mike Malone was just like, what the fuck just happened? We had this game that, like, the Spurs, they were playing Sohan. They weren't playing Keldon Johnson. They weren't playing Vassell. This was Wemby and the fucking G League, and this cost the Nuggets a 1 seed. Now they're in the 2 spot. The Lakers beat New Orleans. Now all of a sudden they have to play the Lakers in round 1. I just feel like that was such a fluke and so weird. I'll never forget watching that for an end of the weekend game.
One of my favorite games this season. And it starts with Wemby scoring 17 points in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes!
3 minutes. And here's the thing, I knew it was coming because I was just going through all of the games, and I just was like, look, try to see as much as you possibly can play because it's going to matter so much more going into Sunday. And you're thinking, all right, well, Denver's playing it out. OKC gets their guys back. Like, everybody wanted the ones. There's some years where I'm just like, why would you punt Game 7 at home? We know historically it was overwhelming, and I think it's been watered down a bit. I don't know what the year cutoff would be of like, hey, Game 7 at home hasn't mattered the way it used to traditionally. Yeah. So I knew the 17-point thing was coming because I was late on it, and I was like just sitting there going, when's it going to happen?
It's like a horror movie where you knew the scary scene. Yeah, right.
And it was still that much fun. Because I saw a clip, I'm like, what did he do? And I was like, oh, so I can't wait. So I watched the entire second half of that, and you're like, Nemesh Kellavili, who is...
Did you say his name correctly?
Maybe.
I'm going to call him Mamu.
Yeah. Those guys played their asses off. And one of my favorite things to do when you're watching a team, because it was both things. San Antonio played like everything mattered. And when they won, Wemby like spikes the ball and was like super into it. It's all these things we love about him and his personality. But then you're also like, what the hell are you guys doing on Denver? It reminded me a bit of when Boston blew the lead to the Cavs. And you're like, hey, guess what? Dean Wade's making shots. You might want to close out on him. Hey, guess what? You still have to box out in the fourth quarter. You have to find who your guy is.
Yeah.
And there were these straight line drives by Mamu, and it was just absurd. And the thing I'll look for is I'll watch the assistants on the team that's pissed off. So it's Ryan Saunders, it's Adelman's kid, and they're seeing these straight line drives by San Antonio. Somebody loses somebody that rocks out. And the two assistants will look at each other, their hands up, what the fuck? And it's always a very good sign that it's not just things are going wrong. You're like, why are our guys just what are we doing out there? And there was a few sessions in a row where I would be like, I'm going to watch the assistants after this session, and then San Antonio would score again, and those guys would just look at each other. And that, who knows how this playoff story will be told.
But it could be one of those games.
Right.
What was that game that year when it was game 82 and some weird result happened and it shifted the order and we were like, oh yeah, that stupid game where so-and-so, I'm blanking.
Wasn't the Spurs when they lost late and they ended up with 3-6 match?
Yes.
Chris Paul hit the game winner.
Right. That was it. So I would urge anybody who likes basketball and just cares about the future of the league to watch the second half of that Nuggets Spurs game. Because it wasn't just Wemby. He finished with 34 and 12, 5 assists, whatever he had. The way he was guarding Jokic was unbelievable. That was the first time I've ever seen Jokic 100% trying and not always getting the shit he wanted against one-on-one matchups. Whereas a couple times Wemby's just he beat him and he still blocked it. But he had a play in the fourth quarter. They posted him up on the right block against Aaron Gordon. And it was oh, this is stupid. What are you guys doing? And he kind of went like he was going to go right, and then just did this crazy spin move, Freddy Krueger arm, layup thing. And you could see Aaron Gordon was like, what the fuck? I'm one of the best defenders in the league. What just happened? But Wemby's this is why the All-NBA, I think, is tough with Wemby. I think he's in the conversation. Because if you're going to make the Halliburton case, and we'll talk about it in part 2, if you make the Halliburton case, it's basically Halliburton was so awesome for those first 10 weeks. He has to be third team All-NBA. Wemby's been so awesome the last, 2 months that I'm willing to throw out every single rule I have. I'm never voting for a guy on a losing team. It's they're trying to tank and he's ruining it for them. He's winning games by himself with these shit players. He's beating the Nuggets who are legitimately trying by himself with Mamu and Devontae Graham. I'm stupefied by him. I can't believe how good he is. By the way, kudos to Windhorst, because I remember when Windhorst was the guy who was the Wemby student. He'd gone there a bunch of times, watched him a bunch. And he said last year Wemby will have these stretches where he just takes over the game, he just for 4 minutes, and he just annihilates the game. And he's you know when it's happening, and he does it, and you can see it, and there's just no way to stop it. And he did that to the Nuggets with the 17 points. He hit the 30-footer, 32-footer. Anyway, it was awesome. But it changed the playoffs because now the Nuggets are second. OKC's 1. If the Lakers somehow lose this 7-8 matchup to New Orleans, they're playing 2 games in 3 nights. It's always tough to beat the team the second time. Denver could get New Orleans. That might work out for them. Or they might get the Lakers, a team that, it's not going to be easy to beat.
No, and it's also if we're pivoting to OKC, because we spent a lot of time on the Spurs there. But you're right.
We did.
Well, it's worth bringing up just because of the Denver part of it, because we're sitting here looking at Denver after going against Minnesota. Okay, so they've got Memphis and San Antonio to close.
This is a wrap.
Yeah, this isn't going
to be. I think they were 18-point favorites against the Spurs.
Yeah, when I was looking at some of the seeding probabilities, it was just off the charts because we were facing the rest of the way. So then you're all right, we're good for Denver because they actually prioritize. We won a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. If it happens, we won it at our place. That's going to be pain for everybody else. Now you're okay, so OKC kind of avoids that. And the best part for OKC is cool, now Denver's on the other side. So,
but it was even worse than that because after Friday, it's they might be the 3 seed, right? Denver went from we have 1 locked up to we're going to be the 3 seed, and we're in home court in 1 round. What the fuck just happened? And then Minnesota helps them out by losing. So they still went second, but OKC ended up being the big winner.
I have no idea what to expect from New Orleans, LA, because today was horrifying for the Pelicans. Lakers. I mean, Lakers were so aggressive. The Lakers looked like, oh, you guys want to see like what a playoff preview is? Okay, this is what it is. LeBron's just 13 assists at half, super aggressive, tougher defensive assignments,
and then close
Zion.
He still finished with like 28, and he definitely likes going against Zion. Like there's a little bit of a, oh, you were supposed to be the next guy. You can feel that with like he really goes at him. FanDuel texted me today, and they were like, let's do a boost for Sunday. And I'm like, let's do the Lakers. This is like a LeBron game. This is a playoff game for them. This is the difference between the regular season versus like this is a one game. They're rested. They're going to go at them. They eviscerated them. That game was over. I mean, when did you know the Lakers were going to win that game? 6 minutes into the first quarter?
It just looked like two different teams playing different pace. And I don't know if it's because New Orleans has had a brutal week. I mean, you want to talk about the ebbs and flows of the season. New Orleans goes 8-3 over 11. Then they lose 4 straight. And then they had this unbelievable close where they have to come back against Phoenix, which we already talked about, Portland, whatever. The
Sacramento win against Golden State.
Right, and then Sacramento, when I've said all season long, like of all the times you spend putting the hours in, grinding the tape, you're like, New Orleans is an awful matchup for Sacramento. And they didn't even have Ingram in this one, and they could even go small, and they got a big Sacramento came back in the game, and then it's like a reminder of no, it's just a different level where you see. It's like the Denver thing, where it's just for most games, you go, okay, now we're going to show you the separation between us and you. And then to your point, the Golden State game, like that was tough. Because Golden State comes almost all the way back. Steph had a 3 at the very end. Like it felt like New Orleans had to win that game 3 different times. So I don't know if that's part of whatever happened today. Like we'll find out here in 48 hours.
36 hours later on a Sunday afternoon in New Orleans. But yeah, I'm with you. Like that Golden State game was the best win they had all season. New Orleans, because Golden State's going full tilt. They kept coming back. They left everything out there. Like Curry was, I think, the most tired I think I've ever seen him in a game at the end of that game. Like I couldn't tell if he was hurt or whatever. And we were like, oh, he's just completely exhausted. And I thought that was actually an alarming loss for Golden State because they wanted it. They just didn't look athletic about it.
At one point, he definitely picked himself up in that one. Not to go back to the old hey, Steph is hurt.
He hurt his ass
for everything, but he did. He was hurt in that one, and even with the potential movement today, they just like they were shutting everything down. Which
did you see? I was going to do this in NBA, but I'll just do it down quickly. He's played the most minutes he's played since 2017 this season, and I think he's looked tired for the last couple weeks. Like you can see it. They've been spot resting him and stuff, but now the way this played out for them, like just talking about the order really quick. Actually, let's take a break and we'll talk about the order because this Golden State piece is a big part of this. Bill Simmons Podcast is presented by FanDuel. The NBA play-in tournament gives teams the chance to play their way into the postseason. It only seems right that new customers on FanDuel can play their way into $150. Just place any $5 bet and you'll get $150 in bonus bets win or lose to use during the NBA playoffs. Bet on threes made and both shots, first basket score, over-under totals, much more. You also have FanDuel now live in Joe House's hometown, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Just go to FanDuel.com/BS to get started. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus, 18 plus in D.C. President select states. Get in prom call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit rg-help.com. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. This episode is brought to you by Taco Bell. If you're anything like me during this day of work, I eat lunch that is just as fresh as it is delicious and easy. And the all-new Cantina chicken menu from Taco Bell is exactly that, made with high-quality ingredients like seasoned, slow-roasted chicken, pico de gallo, shredded purple cabbage, and avocado verde sauce. The new Cantina chicken tacos, burrito, quesadilla are the perfect daytime choice. Try the new Cantina chicken menu from Taco Bell. This episode is brought to you by Vrbo. You know, it is already stressful enough to deal with airports, delayed flights, bad weather. You want your actual where you're staying experience to be perfect, to be lights out. You don't want to have to worry about anything. When you book a vacation rental, you want to know exactly what you're paying ahead of time. The stress of getting hit with unexpected cleaning fees after your stay. that can immediately cancel out all the great time you just spent unwinding. Thankfully, when you book with Vrbo, you can set the total price upfront. There are no unpleasant surprises, and the savings do not stop there, my friends. When you book with Vrbo, you earn 2% cash back toward your next vacation through the One Key Rewards program, letting your money do the work for you while you've got your feet up. So while other vacation rentals can feel like a roll of the dice, relax knowing you booked to Vrbo. Book your next private vacation rental in the Vrbo app. So we're talking about the West Order, which became, it changed 19 times over the course of the last 5-6 days. But Golden State's best case scenario to make the playoffs. And again, I don't think they're any sort of a threat compared to the Lakers. I think the Lakers and Golden State just are threats to win multiple rounds. They're at different levels. But if you were saying, hey, Golden State, what would you want to happen here? You'd be like, well, we'd love to play Sacramento in the 9-10 game. Don't really care where that is. Then it would be awesome if we got New Orleans instead of the Lakers in the next game. Oh, and then you know what else would be cool? If OKC was the 1 seed. Because that's the one team we know we can go up and down with. All three of those things happen. So Golden State is a classic. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. It's Friday. It's like their season's over. This is the wreck. But now I don't know what to think.
Well, I don't know that I ever was at the point where I'm going, all right, this is over. When they were 19 and 24, playing with like he should retire, which again I didn't feel that way, but it was a really rough stretch of play. And if you go from that point on, I think they were 19 and 24, so that means they finished up at 27 and 12. So like that part of it gets kind of lost. The moments where you want to see them just run away. Like, look, when they beat the Lakers in LA, and I went to that game, that's the second time that Anthony Davis has been out of the game against them. So I don't know that those results, because going back to last year in the playoffs, they played each other, you're like, okay, well, they got through Sacramento, but the Lakers, this is the really rough. And it played out that way. It was just too big. It was like every possession over and over again were just too small to compete with them. So when you look at the Sacramento part, they finished with the same record, lost the tiebreaker, but they still punted on today, knowing that they got the win. Sacramento gets the win. They would have been the 9. They didn't care. And
you know what they didn't care?
Oh,
Yeah, they're 21 and 20 at home this year. I mean, one of the secret stories of the decade is Golden State switched buildings and completely lost their home court advantage. And I know they spent a lot of time and money and energy trying to figure out how can this place be awesome, how are the acoustics going to be great, but it's just not the same. I think the people that go to the games are different. It doesn't have the magic that Oracle had, and I don't think anyone is afraid to go in there. So that's changed for them. So maybe it doesn't matter that they're, going to play 2 playing games on the road and they'll be the 8 seed. 21 and 20 at home is awful.
Yeah, but they were 33 and 8 at home.
Yeah.
That's an absurd number. Remember last year the whole deal was like they sucked on the road. They had 11 wins on the road, which was less than Dallas and Utah didn't make the play.
Well, this year they're 25 and 16 on the road or 21 and 20 at home. I played in the new arena. It's my working theory. I don't care. You can throw all the data you want at me.
It was enough. It was like carryover. Last year was the gap year.
It was a gap year.
Remember how bad the defense was on the road? Like, wait, what? What's going on with this team? So I think your bigger point, though, is the right one. When you start looking at like paths, and that's why it's like I didn't really finish the Oklahoma City thing. They're like, great. Like, this is incredible. Like, it may not be great if you get the Lakers, but now you know that in the last week it worked out that it wasn't like you were going to drop out in the 4. It's the Mavs will catch you, but you're not stuck in the 2-3 side against a huge Minnesota or a huge Denver. I know the season series, people look at it and go, hey, this is a problem in the playoff part. And so now they're just one of those 2 teams is going to beat each other if they're there. And now you don't have to deal with it. So,
Kyle, turn the camera on. I want you to record this. OKC cannot beat the Lakers. Yeah. That was a worst case scenario if that's it. I think the Lakers, the way this played out, potentially for them, is unbelievable. House and I were talking about it. Do you throw the 7-8 game so you can play OKC? Like, we actually had that conversation. I would never advocate throwing a playing game, but it's like you can win the 7-8 game and play Denver, where you could lose the 7-8 game and play OKC, a team that you've played a couple times this year. You seem so much more bigger and more physical and overpowering, and they have no experience at all in the playoffs, and they're young. And you have this veteran team that rises to the occasion in some of these big-ass games. I just think if you're OKC, you know, a lot of people have been tweeting and talking about if you're the 1 seed, should you get to pick who you play? Which I think there's no way they can do that with the scheduling, but I'm just telling you.